So, hi.
Hi.
I just want to say Agent M so early. I didn't want to say it this early, but I couldn't
Oh
help
no, it's
myself
fine.
because I'm a fan. I'm an Agent M fan. So you're living in Texas now?
Yes. Yes, I'm in San Antonio.
Wow, that's interesting because I've had two other musicians on that moved to Tech to San Antonio as well. Must
Yeah.
be
Oh, interesting.
Tommy Price, the drummer of Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, moved down there from
Oh,
New
wow.
York. And I was like, from New York to I've been to San Antonio. It's a cool place. You like
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty hot compared to California, but it's pretty great otherwise.
But you're from Central California, and I'm gonna take you away. I want to talk about Death Dreams because I spent a lot of time with it. I love it, and I just want to go back a little bit and go over some of your
Sure.
history, if you don't mind. I lived in LA for a long time, and I been to San Francisco, but I don't know much about Central California. What was it like growing up there?
I did not like growing up there. There was not enough happening for me there. Being in a small town, surrounded by just fields, you know. I mean, if you've driven across California, you've seen, I mean, it now that I am older, when I go back to visit, I feel like it's really pretty. But as a kid, I was just like, there's nothing happening here. There's no shows, there's no venues. I had to work really hard to find bands to listen to and did so much research and never never they were they coming even close to my town to play shows.
Were you
So
anywhere near the 101 or the 5 freeway, or is it further
I
away
yeah,
from?
I was kind of
Okay,
near the
because
five.
that's the
So not
road that goes all the way up through California. Yeah, for
yeah,
people that don't know.
yeah. So well, I mean, I was able I would have to drive about 2 hours to get to San Francisco,
Oh,
um, if I
not
wanted to go to
bad.
a show or which as a teen was maybe a lot, I guess.
Now, you did grow up in kind of a musical family, so that must have been pretty cool. You had a couple brothers that both played, right?
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't really until they were in high school that they started playing, and that was also around the time that I first heard Green Day and just got really obsessed with them, and decided that I wanted to also do music. And I saw that my brothers had been doing it for not too long, like 6 months or something, and I was just like, I can do that too. Like if they can do it, I can do it. And so I set up a band and had a band in high school too, a pop punk band,
Really? What was the
Green
name
Day
of your high
inspired.
school? What was your high school band?
It was called Generic Asphalt. I don't know why.
I was going to ask you about Green Day because you've said in a lot of interviews that you really started singing when you heard Green Day.
Yeah.
Um, so Billy Joe was a big influence on you.
Oh yeah, for sure. I just When I heard them, I just felt like very inspired to do something that was related to punk rock. And I think, also being from a small town, it wasn't until a huge band like Green Day came along that I heard punk rock at all. So there was nothing before that. There was just like regular mainstream radio, which obviously Green Day was on mainstream radio too, but there was nothing like Green Day until they came along for me.
Was there a big venue there that you could go to see bands like that?
No, no, I ended up going to see them play in Oakland, but
Yeah.
I had to travel to go see them.
Yeah, they started kind of in Berkeley, right?
Yeah.
Berkeley area. Yeah, that's what I thought. Were you in a band? I thought I heard that you were in a band with your brothers for a little while too.
No, you mean like way back then?
Yeah, when you were in high school.
No, they had their band first, and then when their so one brother left for college, and then there was still a remaining band, my other brother, and he, let's see, how do I explain? Sorry, I'm like
You,
just trying to get
you
my
don't even you don't even
coffee in.
you don't even need to explain it. It's okay. I just
Time
thought
up, time's up.
it's
um
fine. I think I
I
also heard. Go
I
ahead.
kind of
Sorry.
took over I kind of took over the remainder of like some pieces of my brother's bands to make my
Oh,
band is kind of what happened. Like some people went to college, some people did this or that, and I was like, well, if you're not gonna play, like I'm here still, I'm younger, I'm still in town, so let's put this back together. And also maybe what you had seen was the first time I sang in public was that they had called me up on stage. I would practice, I would go
okay.
to their practices because I was so excited about live music. And sometimes I would convince them to let me, to learn a song that I could sing just at practice, just for fun. And I would just bug them to do that. And so every so often they would. And then one of their shows, they just randomly called me, just like, oh, our sister is going to come do a song now. And I had no idea until that moment that I was about to sing in front of a crowd at the Mother's Day fair.
You followed one of your brothers to the same college town, right?
I did,
Eventually,
yes. Yes. Yes.
and
My
that's
brother
when you
Logan, yeah.
yeah, and that's when you really got into. You had more bands too when you went to college.
Yeah. Yeah. I started a band called Plinky when I went up
Blinky,
there.
yeah.
And yeah, it was great because he was a couple years older than me. So he was playing drums and was pretty established in the music scene there. So I moved up there and was instantly like introduced to all the people making music, and it was great.
Is that when you met the guys from Tsunami Bomb?
Yeah, so we played some shows together, Plinky and Tsunami Bomb, and we were just kind of all in the same scene. And then their singer moved away, and they asked me if I would sing in the band. So there was kind of some overlap where I was in both bands for a
Oh,
little while, and
okay.
we actually did a split 7-inch together, Plinky and Tsunami Bomb,
That's
but I
right. You
was
did.
I was on both sides. Like I was in both bands at the time. So
That's cool. Were you
yeah.
writing by that? Were you already writing by then?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even in the first band in Generic Asphalt, I had original songs.
Piano, or were you writing on piano or guitar or at that point?
I was writing on bass at that
Oh,
point because I played bass in that band. And so in Plinky, I also played bass and sang.
so did songwriting come easy to you?
No.
Because you've written so many songs since then. It's a long
Yeah, I mean,
list.
it's I fell into a pattern, I guess, of when working with other musicians in the band. My main job was, I was always the vocalist. I've always been the vocalist. So my main job is lyrics and melodies, and I've always covered that, but it's not ever been really fast for me. I need to like force myself to sit down and write a song. I wish I were the kind of artist that just has songs, spilling out everywhere, but I'm not.
I was going to ask you if you wrote more out of force or emotion, but I have a feeling that you're going to tell me that later on you started writing out of emotion because I think the new stuff. But we'll get to that.
Okay.
Um, um, this is something I've wondered about since I don't know, maybe 99 or something. Where did you ever come up with the moniker or the name Agent M? I mean, where is that from? Because that is something I have not been able to find out.
Well, it was inspired by a Halloween costume that I wore, where we were playing a show. It was very early on. Um, and we were playing a show and I dressed as a spy. Like that was my my Halloween costume. and everyone in the band had a stage name. Pretty much almost everyone had a stage name, so it
You
just came
needed
from
one.
that. With yeah from and with my name being Emily, it was like Agent M, as the letter M was like a code name, that just, it was fun and turned out to be great.
And people probably still call you Asian M still to this
Yeah.
day, right?
Yeah.
Figured they would. Tsunami Bomb had a really nice run, mainly from like 99 to 2004. A lot of great tours, great songs. I think Take the Reins was the one that really got you guys going around 2002. The Ultimate Escape, is that the album that was on?
Yeah.
Yeah, that really took off. Can you talk about the band and the buzz that was generated, like, and how was it from touring mostly? Is that how you guys really started catching on?
I think so, because it kind of snowballed. We worked really hard with playing shows all over the state, like pretty much as far as we could get out. When we first started playing, we would do like long weekends all the time, and that got us, I can't remember whether it was a booking agent first or some small labels, because we had our split 7-inch, and then we did a 7-inch with Checkmate Records, which is Hunter from AFI's record label. So we had a
Yeah.
7-inch there, and then we did an EP on Tomato Head, which was Chuck from Skanking Pickle. That was his record label. And somewhere in there, we also got a booking agent, and started playing more and touring more, and going out more. We I don't He didn't book our first actual tours. Like, we did a couple of tours, booking them ourselves, and then we got some management, and then we got signed to Kung Fu. So it kind of was all like, everything was all happening in stages, and building on, each action built on the previous one. So and I feel like we were really fortunate, that everything sort of unfolded the way it did. But yeah, I think uh
You guys
to
toured a lot.
yeah, I think that touring was a really big part of it. Was we just kept going out and playing shows everywhere we could.
You seem to be getting on the right tours too. I think Bouncing Souls and the Warp tours, of course. And
Yeah.
there's so many bands that you played with. I was looking at your history of touring for that band this morning, and it's mind blowing. In between like 2000 and 2004, there's so many tours, and you
Yeah.
guys were really busy. You recorded the Definitive Act. I remember that because you recorded it in Cambridge. I'm in the Boston area. What made you guys come up here to record a record? Do you remember how that happened? I was just curious about that.
Yeah, we wanted to record with Mike Poorman, who was the drummer of Hot Rod Circuit. He was working at the
Camp
Camp
Street.
Street.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So he was working out of that studio, which is a really awesome, renowned studio. And he was a friend of ours. We kind of wanted to switch it up, because the first record we recorded in LA, and it was a very like LA experience. And it was very like high pressure kind of. And so for the second record, we decided, you know what, we want to record with a friend, and enjoy it, and see what we can do with that style of recording. So that's what we did, and we stayed there. We were there for, I want to say, I can't remember how many weeks, maybe 5 weeks we were there, or
I was
four
living in
weeks.
that area at that time, and I remember that because you guys were going out and stuff. So people would, you knew people around town, obviously, because you guys played the Axis. I remember you played a big show at Axis, and you played the Warp Tour here, and you went through a lot. So definitely remember. I just figured I'd ask that. The band, disbanded not, a little while after that. And the Action Design came along, and it's like you didn't miss a beat. There was a lot of great material, 2 EPs, an album, a single. You went back on the Warp Tour. That wasn't a very difficult transition going from Tsunami Bomb to the Action Design, was it?
Creatively, no. Um, As far as like behind the scenes, it was a little bit difficult because then we didn't have, we didn't have our booking agent or management or any of that stuff anymore. So we kind of had to build from the ground up, and gradually started making our way back to that place of being able to tour, get some good tours. But about the time that happened, one of our guys decided that he wasn't really into touring. So it kind of fell apart at that point.
That's not good.
No.
I do remember the song Landmines. That was really, really great song from that era.
Thank you.
Good video too. You said in an interview that one of the things that you learned from these previous projects, that it was really important to you to surround yourself with the right people, which now is you. Is that
Yeah.
is that why you decided to strip everything down? I know Survival Guide started as a two-piece, but can you talk about what you meant by that? I mean, did you just get tired of everything with all these? Because you were on so many labels and tours and personnel changes and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember when I had said that about surrounding yourself with the right people, but it definitely was part of the reason that Tsunami Bomb broke up was just everything was kind of all of those areas, the management, the label, like the booking, everything was kind of like on shaky ground, for various reasons across the board. And even within the band, it was like we had one guy uh who similar thing, he was like gonna leave for another band, and he was a really core member for me, and so that was falling apart for me. So uh yeah, I feel like it's really important to I mean, there's kind of no way to predict if you're going to get into a business relationship. You don't know what's going to happen down the line, like you can't really predict that. But part of the action design was sort of starting over in that way. Like, here's, these solid people that I'm excited to be in a band with, and we're just going to see where we can build from here. And then it's funny you point out that now it's just me, because that is literally what has happened. Like over the years, um people's lives change, and they decide they don't want to be a struggling artist anymore, and they change the way they feel about playing in a band. And um so that's where I am now. That's why I've gradually, I mean, I'm happy to finally be here. It feels really good to be like, yeah, I can play a show, or no, I don't want to play that show. I can do whatever I want, and I don't have to be disappointed if I get offered a really awesome tour and somebody else says, no, I can't get the time off work or whatever. Like, I can do it if I want to.
You started in the industry at a really interesting time, because I worked for labels, and my last, I ended up doing an indie label after that, but I worked at a major label until the late 90s. And then from like 2000 to 2008, everything just completely changed in the music industry. So you were there at a time where it went from record stores on every street and labels everywhere to all of a sudden, we're out here on an island. So if one person says, I don't want to go on tour, I manage bands too. So I know what that's like. If one person's like, I don't want to do that tour, it just screws up the whole thing for everyone.
Yeah.
So you're almost better off being alone. But I
Yeah.
could relate to that. I could relate to that quote. That's why I pulled that one out. Um, you originally started the band as a two-piece and survival guide in 2011. And I really like that song Wildcat. I was going to ask you about that. Did that come out on a 7-inch single?
The 7-inch was called Wildcat. So the song would have been either Shrouded in Steel or Prohibition, I think.
Oh, the song wasn't called Wildcat. It was the name of
No.
the single. Okay, that's why I got a little confused. I did remember that. And I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. So that's why I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
So your music started changing a lot, and was it difficult from you to go from punk to a poppy, it was always poppy punk, but a more poppy punk to all of a
Yeah.
sudden a little electronic synth sound. Was that hard for you to do?
It was, I would say what was hard about it was the way that it was like a blank slate, which is kind of awesome, but also kind of overwhelming at the same time. When Jason, who was the guitar player in Survival Guide, he was also the guitar player in the Action Design. So when that band kind of, when it was kind of like, well, some people don't want to do stuff anymore, Jason and I were like, well, we actually were kind of wanting to expand more on the sound. We kind of wanted to take it in this direction that was not so it's interesting. Like I've been in a position multiple times in music where I want to write a song where maybe we don't need, say, drums, or we don't need guitar, or there's, but when you're in a band, you don't do that. You don't say like, okay, you sit this one out, like
Right,
just go to the
right.
side of the stage. It's like there's a responsibility for everyone to have a part, and it's required. So partially I was kind of feeling like, well, we could do anything. Like if we know how to, if we figure out how to program drums, and we don't even have to use drums as the sounds. We can use whatever we want if we're doing electronic stuff, which was really exciting, and also kind of overwhelming, like I said. But at the time I had Jason with me, so we worked it out together, and then that led into me doing it alone, which was super intimidating. But now I've done it myself too. So
The touring all kind of came to like not a screeching halt, but you didn't tour much at all from like 2011,
no,
15,
yeah,
16.
we uh we we tried to put some stuff together, but we didn't have a booking agent, and I still don't have a booking agent. So I'm definitely on the lookout for a
Were you
booking
in,
agent,
were
because
you still in California at that time?
yeah, yeah.
So did you play local shows? Like you were in San Francisco at that point?
I was north of San Francisco, and he was in Sacramento. And yeah, we played local shows, and we did a little we did a West Coast run. Like we went up to Washington and back, and um but then not long after that, we were sort of starting to build and do the branching out, and starting to do that, and then he was not able to be in the band anymore because he started a surprise family.
And you're
um
the band.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, since then, I mean, I wish that I had been building my presence, my live presence, and touring and all that. I did keep playing shows, but it was hard for me to branch out by myself. I just felt really unsure about it after, basically I was kind of forced into being solo in a way, because I didn't want to just like start auditioning guitar players. I didn't It was such a loose project musically already that
Right.
I felt like the only thing I could do was just add his guitar to my tracks, to my drum tracks, and play by myself. I did do some tours with another Bay Area band called Lungs and Limbs, where I was able to just jump into their van and take all my stuff and tour with them, which was really cool.
Did you open for them?
We would trade. We would trade it up, and we I feel like with booking, I just kind of need a team of some sort.
Yeah.
Like I need a friend or someone to help me with it, because it's really hard for me. So we met up, and we like plotted we did 2 or 3 tours together, I think. I can't remember. We did like the west and the south of the US
So you haven't
together.
been to the East Coast in a while.
No, I did a New York show, an acoustic New York show, because another thing with doing the electronics is getting my gear out there.
Yeah.
So I did a show where I rented a stage piano and just did piano, like a piano set, which is cool, but it's not quite the same, it's not like a big loud show.
Your live and alone thing that you did was fantastic.
Oh,
I
thank
really
you.
like those songs. Your body of work, as I mentioned, is incredible. You just keep writing and writing. Um, you said a few years back that with Survival Guide you can do whatever you want, and that was the whole point of it. You probably feel that way more than ever now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a very windy journey to where I am now, but yeah, I definitely feel like I can do whatever I want to. This is my thing.
Is Double Helix a good place for you?
Oh yeah, for sure.
How did you get on their radar? They're an Arizona label, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. They contacted me and I think I had mentioned that I was working, on social media or something. I had mentioned that I was working on music, and they contacted me, and they knew my brother. They knew one of my brothers. He had done their artwork for their label, and that um kind of made me feel like, okay, I should check into them, like, meet them and stuff. And they're just really great people um who genuinely, their goal is just to get good music out to the world, which is like the most awesome, that's what every label's motivation should be,
Yeah, I
so
agree.
so I feel really fortunate to be working with some people who that's what they care about. Like they don't, that is their core tenet, is just like, you make good music, we will put it out so that people can hear it, because we want the world to be a better place because people are listening to good music.
When you talk about Request Hotline, the two of them, I didn't
Yeah.
get to listen to a lot of the stuff that you did. I did hear your all. I do remember that you covered Paula Abdul once, and thought that was
Uh-huh.
fantastic, straight up. And you did a really good job of it. What
Thanks.
inspired you to do these dance party covers of AFI songs and Misfits and Distillers, Slater Kinney? I mean, that's the only
Yeah,
other person I know of that's doing that is Juliana Hatfield. I don't know if you know Juliana.
oh, interesting. Yeah, I
She
didn't
did
know
it.
she was doing that.
She just released an all ELO cover record.
Oh, interesting.
And
Wow.
before that, she did The Police, and before that, Olivia Newton-John. So it's
Huh.
like,
Oh, you know what? I did see that Olivia Newton-John one that she did. I didn't know it was like a series. Interesting.
were you just a fan of these songs and you just decided you wanted to cover them?
So, for some of them, yes, but for most of them, it actually was part of a bigger project because it was requests from my Patreon. So I have
That's
a
right.
Patreon
Yeah.
where when I started my Patreon, the very first reward for people to, I this is for people to um have a monthly membership, which also helped me be able to stay making music. So one of the rewards was that you can request a song and I will record it for you and send it to
Wow.
you. And
That's cool.
these are almost all of those that are released are requests from patrons, and it's been super fun. It's I think it's in some ways it's more fun because it is more challenging than choosing the covers myself. It's like people are sending me songs, like deep cuts, and and then I have to figure out, it's almost like a homework assignment. I have to figure out, what am I going to do with this Distillers song? Like, I don't want to just do it like the Distillers do it, because that would be boring.
You didn't do Paula Abdul the way she did it either, you
No.
know? Why don't you is your Patreon, patreon.com/ Emily Whitehurst, or is it Survival Guide, or what is it?
It's after the slash, it's Survival Guide with no vowels. It's just SRVVLGD.
And
And that's my
mine
website too.
and mine is patreon.com/ Twisted Rico. Okay.
Oh, nice.
plug my
I
own
will go follow
Patreon
you
page for a
then.
minute. All right.
Yeah.
So now we've gotten to the moment that we built ourselves up to. I'm sorry about all of it. I just
Oh,
had
that's
to get
okay.
to this because I'm excited about this part, not because I like Death Dreams, because I know Bob Hogue and
Oh,
he's a great drummer and you got him to play drums on some of your songs. I used to manage the Love Me Nots and they did several records with Bob. So I got to know Bob and he's the best guy. And
yeah.
if you're going to say, who do you go to in Phoenix? You go to Bob.
Yeah.
So did Double Helix hook you up with Bob or did you find Bob on your
Yes.
own?
No, they already had worked with him before, and it was kind of like a, to them it was like a no-brainer, like, oh, well, record with Bob because that's gonna be awesome. And it all, like, the timing of it all fell into place so perfectly. Um and but yeah, I had never, it's possible that I had met him before, maybe, but we weren't, neither of us were like sure about that.
He
It's
did
possible our
he
bands crossed paths at some point.
Yeah, he plays in a few bands, and plus he produced a bunch of punk bands too. He's really good.
Yeah.
How did it get to the point where he ended up playing some drums with you? Because you didn't use live drums before that, did you?
Right. Well, on the record, on the previous record on Way to Go, there were a couple of songs that had live
Okay,
drums on them. Because that song was also, or that album was also recorded by a friend of mine who is a drummer. So when sitting down with Bob doing, listening over the demos, um it
pre-production.
just was, yeah, the pre-production, yeah. It was just he suggested it. He suggested, oh yeah, and maybe like, on this, on the chorus, I'll hear the drum, some real drums. I'll record some real drums for it. And of course, I was like, yeah, please. Like, I didn't know. I assumed he was a great drummer, but he was an amazing drummer,
Yeah.
and everything came out so wonderfully. And I love all the drum parts that he added. But yeah, I was definitely open to, like, that's kind of what I wanted out of a producer, is someone to be like, okay, this is good, but we need to build it here. Like, this needs to be bigger, and we'll add more layers and make it better.
Did he
And
help
that's what
with
he
the
did.
arrangements too on that?
Um, some, I was actually really surprised by how much we kept the same. Like, we actually kept a lot of demo tracks in there, since I recorded my own demos and I had everything, in stems. It was like, oh yeah, we'll bring this keyboard over. We'll bring, like, a lot of the electronic drums that I had demoed. We just cleaned them up and used them, and then he played over them, and we added and subtracted a few things. But yeah, there were a couple songs where we changed up the arrangement, um, and improved it, but not drastically. Like, the main thing he did was just make the song so full and so professional.
Yeah, it's one of the best things. He's done a lot. So it's saying a lot when I say that's one of the best things I've heard that he's done because it is a lot different than anything he usually does. You come across, well, you when I a long time ago when I saw you on stage or in videos, you come across as a really happy person, and even in interviews like right now. But this record is so dark. How did you convey your feelings when writing these songs into such darkness? Way to word it.
That's a good question. I agree with you. I feel like I am generally a very happy person, and for some reason, even like it's always been that my outlet for negativity or darkness is songwriting. So, I mean, I do have some really positive songs over the years, and happy songs, but for the most part, I'm writing about things that I maybe I'm just not expressing in my day to day because of the positivity. I don't know. I agree with you though. I'm generally happy.
I guess it
but
didn't come
not
across.
nobody's always happy, you
Yeah,
know.
I guess it didn't really come across with the earlier bands as much as it does on this record for me, anyways.
Yeah, well, I for sure on this one, I think that it's a product of being completely solo now. When I wrote this whole record, I start to finish was didn't have any, Jason was not in the band. So I do feel like I just kind of let it go and just wrote exactly what I was feeling. And there are things that I probably would not have written if I had any other band members. I would have been like, oh, not necessarily that it's too dark, but just too exposing, like
Yeah.
too much of my soul is coming out in these words for it to represent this whole band. So yeah, I there are definitely some songs where I don't think I would have written them this way if it wasn't just me in Survival Guide.
You've been able to really convey some of these songs through your videos, like Blood Perfume and Lady Neptune. It's like an entire film in 4 minutes and 32
Yeah.
seconds. I mean, how in the world did you get that together? I mean, that was not a, oh, I did this on my own with an iPhone. It wasn't
No,
one of those
no.
kind of videos at all.
No, no, not at all. I've been so fortunate to work with this video production company in Arizona called Motivated Mind Group. And they have been creating these videos. They've been they've been coming up with the treatments and the ideas and presenting them to me. And I'm not a videographer. I don't make music videos. So I'm so excited to have people who, listen to the song, get inspiration from it, and then present me with like, well, we're kind of thinking, we do this sort of 80s inspired, uh, sort of Scarface type um music video with drugs, and like you're coming up in the ranks as a drug dealer. And I'm just like, yes, let's do that. That sounds, I mean, yeah, you that team knows what they can do and I don't. I'm just like, if you guys can do that, I'm super into that. Like, let's do that.
You got a lot going on with Arizona people. How did that happen?
Yeah. It's all because of Double Helix. So everything, working with Bob, it was like I stayed there, and then I mean, especially because I moved to San Antonio, I think that's part of it, is that I don't have tons of resources here. I know some people, but I'm not like, oh yeah, I have my usual video guy, or whatever. I don't have like, oh, my usual studio or producer or any of that. So thankfully, like that is one thing um that I needed from a label, and thankfully Double Helix has the connections to set that kind of thing up.
I think it's really important these days for independent labels to also act as managers for some artists. And it sounds like that's what they're helping you with.
Yeah.
Is there someone particular at the label that you've been doing a lot of work with that you've connected with on all this that's been
Um,
helping you? Or is there an entire
it's a
team over there?
it's a very small, it's a two-person label.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a husband and wife team. So
Fantastic.
they pool their resources, and they're just involved in the music scene there, and know a lot of people in the area. So I'm totally fine with working with people out there, going out there to
They're in
shoot
Phoenix.
videos. And yeah.
Right. So have you played any shows in Phoenix since you hooked up with them?
um I've only played acoustic shows so far, but I have my record release show is this weekend, and it's gonna be at the Egyptian Motor Hotel. It's a fairly new venue,
I
so
was
I
going
have
to
not
say
played there
I
before.
lived in Phoenix for 18 months,
Okay.
but I never heard of that place. But
Yeah,
I like
it's
Phoenix
new.
though. I really do like that town. I do. I haven't been there in a while, but it's a cool place. Um, let's see, just a couple more things. So now that it's hard to believe because you look so young and you still have a very fresh outlook. You've been doing this for over 20 years now. I mean, are you in a place right now where you feel like, wow, I really enjoy this? Or is it just, you know, it's just part of the job?
Yeah.
I mean, are you in a place right now where you feel like, wow, I really enjoy this? Or is it just part of the job? I mean, are you in a place right now where you feel like, wow, I really enjoy this? Or is it just part of the job? I'm in a good place and I want to keep this going? Or do you feel like when you make a record, like this is the record? Like, I think to be an artist, don't you have to just love what you're doing and not think about the bigger picture?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's the only way that I would still be going right now, because my trajectory has been this sort of like a weird, touring internationally and doing tons of stuff, and then it's really gotten a lot simpler since then. But I just feel like I can't not do music. So I'm continuing, and I definitely had some sticky moments in the road of trying to decide whether I was still going to do it, because like you're saying, I've been doing this for so long. And I did have a moment where like a period of time after being solo where I was like, do I want to do this? Because it is harder. It's a lot harder to be solo in a lot of ways. It's like, yes, I have the convenience of doing whatever I want, but do I also want to do everything? Everything, make every decision, and not have anyone to help me with anything. So I did spend some time considering what it would be like if I was not doing music anymore, and I decided that needed to needed to at least see what I could do with Survival Guide solo, and that is when I started my Patreon to kind of be like, do people care? Like, what can I do anything here? And that's where I sort of started building the foundation and the confidence, and the drive to write, to keep writing, and do some more music for the people that want to hear it. And so at this point, yeah, I feel like I wasn't sure. A few years ago, I figured I'll write the album and I'll just like, that'll be it for me. But after working with Bob and having Double Helix and like, building this team, it feels so good to have these people to work with that know what they're doing and are supportive of me and just want to see me succeed. And I'm so grateful for it. And I feel like I should start writing the next record, because I I'm just so happy with the way that Death Dreams came out. And I never
It's good.
could have guessed that it would have sounded so great.
You have a good publicist too, by the way. Like,
Oh,
throw
good.
that out there. Thank you. I mean, I think we covered it all, and I'm glad that you're in this place, and I know you have a lot of fans out there, so we want to hear more music from you.
Well, thank you. I'm going to try. I really need to focus on getting out there and actually seeing people in person and playing a bunch of live shows wherever I can. That's the next phase.
I can't wait to see you go on tour. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.